My name is Mary Olushoga from the AWP Network, and you're watching AFK Insider. It's very important, definitely. But I also, there are a lot of, I have a lot of partners on ground. And there are some people who try to make the distinction when they say Nigerian, for example. They'll say, we don't want Nigerians in the diaspora applying for a project. We don't want, they try to make that distinction. But for me, I believe, which is part of what we did with the photography contest, any African anywhere in the world can make a difference in their local community. That was one of the main thesis of the photography contest. So we didn't want to sort of have any kind of restrictions or limitation, because we don't want people to feel like, oh, I'm going to wait before I make a difference. I'm going to wait until I get that job, until things begin to happen before I go back home. So I think going back inspires you, because you get to see the issues by yourself, so you can't just talk about the problems by reading about it. You have to go there to experience it, to see the challenges. I mean, if you're talking about e-commerce, someone reading about e-commerce, for example, will say, oh, I saw Jumia or Konga in one of these newspapers and all these things, but there are challenges. Internet penetration is still a problem. People don't have access to internet. So if you're just basing everything you know about Africa based on what you've read, I'm not really sure how authentic your solutions will be. So I think for me, it's very important to be based there, because you can see the problems and you can provide real solutions to those problems. So I think it's important. While I do hold the philosophy that any African anywhere in the world can make a difference, I don't believe you have to be in the continent. But if you want to solve a problem in Africa, you have to be there and you have to be connected to the people. That's a great question, because I've interviewed a couple of people for a governmental entrepreneurial project called You Win Nigeria, whereby the government would provide people with 1 million to 10 million naira to start their business. I think to be a real entrepreneur, if I could use that word, you have to start on your own, and it has to be something that you sort of finance, whether it's through bootstrapping or you go to a bank versus the government giving you money. So in Nigeria specifically, the government unfortunately controls many things. One of the ways to affect change would be to work, so it has to be a public-private partnership to affect change or create policies that can really affect or really transform in any way the entrepreneurial environment. So it's really unfortunate that the government is still like the thesis of many things. Unlike here, Facebook just gets started, private investors invest and it takes off, and things like that. But people still rely heavily on government. That's not the way it's supposed to be, but unfortunately that's the way it is. But I think you still need government to create policies that sort of enable an entrepreneurial environment. But I think apart from creating that environment, that's it. An entrepreneur, I think, functions because of that freedom and that creativity, and they should not be really influenced by governmental officials or anything like that. One of the reasons why I actually mentioned that ministry specifically is because I met the Honorable Omobola Johnson when I was in Canada, in Montreal. I'd won an award, the World Summit Youth Award, and so she was one of the people who attended that summit. So after my conversation with her, and I'm like, what are we going to do for women and girls in ICT? And it was great talking with her, but in terms of implementation, there was not much, So I began following her on Twitter, sending her emails of different ideas, still no response. So you can't wait for government to create change. You have to go out there and do what you need to do.